morning run in the park in London, and this is where I do all my thinking really for the day and kind of think about what I'm going to be doing, what my next podcast is, um, and sort of talk about what we have been doing already. So, um, backstory: just finished another podcast on Belarus, where people are struggling for freedom, and I interviewed a journalist on backstory who has to go into hiding. I mean, they have to hide from Lukashenko as they're demanding new elections and they're demanding freedoms. Um, they're being hunted by the secret police and they're being locked up and tortured. So that podcast is up. I hope you check it out. It's a very short one, but it was an interview with a journalist who I thought deserved some time and attention because through her we learn a lot about what's going on in Belarus. Um, we've just done another story on Afghanistan, whereas of course where I spent a lot of time reporting on the invasion after 9/11. I was embedded with U.S. troops, the 10th Mountain Division, the 101st Airborne, the U.S. Marines, as they attempted to, stand up an independent government, and at the same time they attempted to hunt down Al Qaeda, which then took refuge in the regions of Pakistan. And while we talk, there are peace talks going on starting in September again on Afghanistan and whether the U.S. administration is going to withdraw all of the U.S. troops there. So, another podcast. Be great if you could listen. Great if you could share the link. Be great if you could subscribe to Backstory with Dana Lewis. Be up. Banana says my signal stinks. Thanks, Banana. Anyway, so what I was hoping for with these podcasts on Backstory with Dana Lewis, because I don't want to do a long broadcast here, is if you have story ideas, maybe this is a great vehicle to hear you. Because I kind of find it, podcasting is one way sometimes, and it should be more interactive. And I think HAPS, uh, that looks like a better signal now. So HAPS can give us a good way to interact with audiences. And if you feel that there's something we should be covering as a podcast, as a broadcast, just leave me some comments here on what you feel is important. I mean, I think we're not doing anything on Asia. We haven't done anything on Hong Kong. We need to do that. Um, just reading some of the having signal blips this morning. So anyway, getting back to the podcast backstory with Dana Lewis. Leave me your comments. Tell me what your story is. The famous concert hall in the center of London, and that's where we often go to concerts, and it's a cultural center. And it's a beautiful building. I mean, Royal Albert Hall, in behind the trees now of Hyde Park. Uh, Also, just a fantastic venue. So, I think on our podcast we can do more with music as well and culture. And so, try to interact with us and let us know. Um, you know what? There's somebody just put a question there. What's up with HAPS and the verified journalist? Can you explain? No, I cannot. I think that they look at the backgrounds of journalists on there. That's put on by the administrators, and I'm not sure what a verified journalist is today because there's a lot of debate about verification and who's a journalist and who's not and who's real and who pretends to be, right? So no, it's put on by the administrators of the site, and I didn't ask for it, and it's on there, and that's what a verified journalist is. So you have to ask HAPS. It's interesting in Belarus. One of the last podcast we just did, although we don't talk about it in the podcast because I just learned about it today. Is a lot of the news anchors in Belarus have gone on strike because of the after the election. Lukashenko started locking up people. People were beaten. People were tortured. Journalists walked off their sets at the main TV networks. Now we find out that Russia has put in journalists from Russia Today. So they sent in Russian-speaking hosts who took over the broadcasts and have continued to broadcast as if they're Belarusian. And of course, what they cover and how they cover is very state-oriented, very pro-Lukashenko. So who the hell knows what a verified journalist is these days? But the only way really you can navigate journalism and good journalism is to understand who you're reading. And I read the New York Times, I read the Economist. I look at a lot of different television networks, and there are some that I won't bother with. And I think, to be a good news consumer, to understand what's going on in the world, probably get off social media a little bit and take a look at some of the mainstream newspapers, because I have a lot of confidence in, people like the New York Times, and find journalists that you think are unbiased and give you both sides. That's how you tell if they're unbiased, not because they tell you what you want. I'm sorry, Sally is lagging. This is Sally, my companion for the broadcast this morning on the morning walk. So, navigating journalism and truth, I'm not sure we always know what that is, but navigating all that is tricky business. And you need to be smart, and you need to read a lot. And if you just look at your favorite person on social media, you're just going to get one side, and you're probably going to be fed the side that you like. And challenge yourself. Just opening the gate. Sally, come. Challenge yourself and listen to people that maybe you don't agree with, but hear their side, right? So I think that's really important. Where do you see all this going from here with fake news and the vilifying of journalism in the West? And there's somebody else saying they read. I'm not on social media. I read about 5 papers a day. Sally, come. Sorry. My dog is lagging behind. Look, it's dangerous. The fragmentation of media. And people live in some pretty strange alternate realities right now. And people start, believing whatever, they start following QAnon and believing that all the Democrats are keeping children in their basements and torturing them. And there's a hell of a big following in that space. So yeah, social media gets dangerous. And, in some ways I love it because you really get to hear from some brilliant people. You get access to comments from people that, before you used to hear from every couple of months. Now you hear from on a daily basis. But you have to be selective about who you listen to and how you listen to them. And social media and fake news. Fake news is invented by people who lie. The term fake news was really invented by Donald Trump, among others. I mean, I'm not sure he's the first guy that came up with it, but, he's capitalized on it because he doesn't want the truth out there. Otherwise, he's not going to get elected. He's not going to be able to hold power. He's not going to be called out on his lies and mistruths. So fake news was invented by people who lie, and I think people who use the term fake news all the time are generally the ones you should be suspicious of. So good question. Anyway, if you're just kind of listening to this broadcast a little bit, I would love it if you would, search wherever you listen to podcasts, Backstory with Dana Lewis podcast. Take a look at some of the podcasts. Take a look, listen to them, Any comments are welcome, and your story ideas are definitely welcome. And what you'd like to see less or more of. So I'll talk to you on Backstory, and I'll try to be back here on Haps a little more regularly.